Hello and welcome to a video about one of my favorite topics, retirement. It's one of my favorite topics not because I retired early or that I know a lot of you are preparing for retirement or maybe already retired, but because there's so little information about it. Retirement is not easy. In fact, Forbes and other publications want you to convince you that there is a retirement crisis. You may have seen this in the news. Is this true? And if so, what is a retirement crisis and does it affect you? Like most of you, I didn't know what this meant when I first heard it. I had to do some research, and because the term has become a buzzword, it's been in the news so much recently. Influencers, retirees, and people use it in the media to make it sound interesting, make it sound cool, cause panic, get people to click on the articles. And I'm not going to cause panic here, but I would like you to listen to ways to prepare so you can avoid a retirement crisis. So let me break it down and make it easy for us to understand what a retirement crisis is. Retirement crisis refers to the significant gap between the amount of money people have saved and invested near retirement or at retirement and the money that they are actually going to need at retirement and through retirement to the end of their retirement years. And that gap is pretty large. This isn't new. The gap has been there since the beginning of time, because if people had enough money to retire, then they would retire. If you're retired, I bet you saved and worked and invested until you had enough money to retire, and then you retired. But people don't have enough to retire, and it is getting worse. Thus the retirement crisis. There are a few reasons for this. Number one is inflation. Inflation has been high for over a year. It's coming down very slowly. It actually ticked back up in the United States this past month, which is making everything more expensive. Government measures such as reduced benefits, increased taxes around the world are making it hard for people to save, and poor planning. There just isn't a lot of good financial education out there about properly planning for retirement. The gap is only widening. If you needed $500,000 yesterday, then you need $600,000 today, and you'll need $1 million tomorrow. So we're getting further and further behind. This makes it hard, if not impossible, for people to retire. But why is this happening? There are several reasons. Number one, no financial literacy. Many individuals just simply don't know where to go to start saving and planning for retirement. They don't know how much money they need to save and invest, how much they'll need in retirement, how to draw that money out in retirement. Tax effectively, how to make it last for the rest of their lives. Starting with the first one, how much money you need to retire, it reminds me of my conversation with a relative of mine when we were talking about retirement, and he told me that he wanted to save $20 million for retirement. My eyes did this. And I said, why? How did you figure that out? And he said, well, I just kind of guessed. That seemed like a good number. It's pretty high, obviously. And so once we started crunching the numbers, we realized that it was like 95% less than that. And I think most people are in this boat where they just don't know how much they need to save. They either overestimate like he did, or they underestimate, or they just don't know where to start. In my financial literacy course, I've talked to a lot of people that are getting their finances together, and the number one thing that I find is that people feel like they are behind. They have been afraid to start investing and saving because they just didn't know how it worked. They don't know how the stock market worked or how much they need to save for retirement. And so they just didn't do anything. And if you're one of those people, that's okay, because it's very common that people just don't know what to do. But we're here to fix that. So without proper guidance, people just fail to invest the right amount of money, and then they get near retirement and they are way behind, and they might not even know it. I help people save and invest and plan for a proper retirement, for a comfortable retirement. I offer courses that teach everything from saving and investing for retirement to making extra money to boost up your retirement savings and investing. And if you're interested in one of those courses, I'll put a link down below. And then of course, I'll also make these videos and have a daily newsletter that you can sign up to at morningdownload.com. And the link is below, because I think financial planning is very important. I used to be a financial planner where I help people plan for retirement. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that there isn't enough education out in the world about investing, let alone investing for retirement. When I was in high school, I wasn't taught anything about how to invest, let alone invest for retirement. I wasn't thinking about it when I was 18 years old. Not a single class. I know that's changing a little bit in some places, but it wasn't until I went to the university and majored in finance where I started to learn about money. But most people don't do that. Most people just don't know. And that is contributing to the retirement crisis because people aren't proactively trying to figure it out and putting enough money away. Reason number 2, increased longevity and healthcare costs. Healthcare has always been expensive in the United States. The costs continue to go up, and retirees bear the burden even longer because their lifespans are increasing. So they have to budget for an increasing number of years, more than generations before them had to do. And out-of-pocket expenses can run into the thousands, especially if you retire early before you're eligible for Medicare. A couple will need about $285,000 to cover medical expenses during retirement if you were to retire today, and that's not including long-term care. That is a lot of money, and it is expected to rise in the future. There are ways to mitigate that with Obamacare and some other things, and if you're in a country that has a great healthcare system, then definitely take advantage of that. But the fact is that people are living longer around the world, and it's costing more money to pay for healthcare in those longer years. Number 3 is an over-reliance on Social Security. Social Security can be a savior, can be a big part of a person's income in retirement, but you cannot and should not plan to live just on Social Security. In fact, Americans don't even know how much they'd receive in Social Security when they retire, and most overestimate that amount by 27%. Others aren't aware of how Social Security works. They end up withdrawing it before they should and receiving much less money than they could have if they would have waited. So you have to understand how Social Security works and claim it at the right time to maximize your benefits, and work it in your budget and your financial plan to figure out the optimal time for you. And 4th is the vanishing pension. Retirees today can't count on having a pension like they could have 20 or 30 years ago because most companies no longer have those traditional pension plans. Even government plans are going away and changing to defined contribution plans. In fact, in 1998, 236 of the Fortune 500 had pension plans. Guess how many there are today? 13. So they are basically gone. They have disappeared. And with pensions gone, retirees have fewer income sources that they can count on to pay the bills. And individuals are now more responsible for their own financial management, which goes back to the importance of financial literacy. Because if you don't have a pension, Social Security may not be there when you retire if you're younger, or if it is, it's going to be a lower amount than you might expect. Then it's all up to you. It's up to you to plan for your retirement, be educated about what the options are. And most people are just not. But interestingly enough, the crisis doesn't just affect baby boomers that are almost retiring or already retired. It is affecting millennials and Gen Z as well. Because of the rising costs. You may have seen in the news that more Gen Z and millennials are living with their parents into their 30s. They're not buying houses. They're not going to college because of the economic conditions that have gone on since the 2008 crisis. But there are ways to avert this for yourself so you can have a great retirement. Start by understanding retirement planning and improving your own financial literacy. Learn about the basics of investing, about saving, and budgeting, so you can do it on your own. So you don't have to rely on somebody else. So you especially don't have to rely on your government to take care of it for you. I've made dozens of videos on this channel about budgeting and saving or more. You can go through a playlist and pick a subject you're interested in, watch all the videos, and get up to speed on some of the best ways to save and invest and budget. Next, you need to calculate how much you need to retire. Calculate all of the income sources that you have now and expect to have in retirement, and save ways to increase your income so you can put more money into those funds and plan for the future. Keep in mind that if you need $100 today, that $100 might be $150 in the future. So over save, put more money than you might need, because expenses continue to go up, especially with inflation, and inflation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. It took about 10 years for inflation to go down in the 80s. And we're just in year 2. So inflation is going to be here for a long time, especially with the debts that the country has and the problems around the world that different countries have, we need to plan for inflation. So plan for more money than you need. And if you can't reach the milestone that you've set, the target number that you've set, then think about ways to decrease your expenses. Cut back on dining out, find a more affordable place to live, move to a different state, or maybe even a different country. I've made a video about that you can find a link to. And I've also made a video about alternatives to retirement, ways to do it a little bit different that can help you figure out your number. I did a video about how much you need to retire, and I'll put the link to all of those in the description below so you can watch those. So yes, there is a retirement crisis, but that doesn't mean it has to be a crisis for you. I retired happily, as have a lot of my friends who retired early and some who are preparing to retire, and you can too if you haven't done it already. Stay focused on creating your financial plan, spend time figuring it out, saving and investing, how to best utilize your money, and you will be well on your way to a great retirement. If you want more information about the market, about economics, and about personal finance specifically, then join the newsletter on morningdownload.com. You'll get a newsletter every day in your inbox giving a summary of what's happening in the market and some tips on how you can level up your budget and your financial planning for retirement.